this week on Why Won't This Shit End Already? The Silver Arrows are coming off a pretty disappointing result down in Miami, where they did get solid top 10 runs, but were still outclassed by the field. But in the end, the series continues on, as during the off weeks following Miami, George Russell would go on and talk about the track conditions at Miami and the weather, complaining about the heat, saying 85 degrees Fahrenheit was way too hot for a race. And he complained about the heat, which led to Julia Piquet roasting the living shit out of George Russell, saying George couldn't hack it in a stock car. For all context here, let me explain this whole situation. Julia Piquet is the sister to Kelly Piquet, who dates Max Verstappen. And Julia Piquet dates Mexican NASCAR driver Daniel Suarez. Just for context here. And wow, seriously, complain about driving in 85 degree Fahrenheit heat? Man, you wouldn't even hack it in a stock car, because most NASCAR drivers in stock cars, they're usually inside that cockpit. It goes about as hot as 120 degrees Fahrenheit in that car. And they're usually driving that thing for almost 3.5 hours. Yeah, sorry, F1 fans. Nope, in NASCAR and Indy car fans can't relate to us. We are not the goddamn same. But yeah, seriously, yeah, Russell couldn't hack into it if he's complaining about 85 degree Fahrenheit heat. He couldn't handle it. Man, why can't you be like your teammate Lewis? Hell, Lewis Hamilton has even discussed possibly doing NASCAR in the future. You know what's fucking sad in this situation? When Lewis Hamilton has more balls racing than you. That's the fucking sadder part. Goddamn, George Russell's already getting corrupted by being associated with Lewis Hamilton, the diva. Of course, though, the big headlines coming through this week, other than the race in Imola getting canceled because of the flooding in Emilia Romagna. Damn unfortunate situation. That sucks. So that race got canceled, which means an extra off week before they head to Monaco for the Monaco Grand Prix. But of course, during this extra time off, there were rumors going around about Lewis Hamilton's future, as there were rumors that Ferrari threw a €40 million a year offer to have Hamilton drive for Ferrari in the future, potentially to replace Charles Leclerc, since there was an opt-out in Leclerc's contract at the end of the year. And then Leclerc would go to Mercedes to replace Hamilton. Only in the end for Ferrari team principal Frederic Vasseur and for Lewis Hamilton to dismiss those rumors, saying they were fake news, and that there was no such contract offer laid out on the table for Lewis to go to Ferrari. As Lewis Hamilton states that he wants to stay with Mercedes, and that they're working on a multi-year extension. I wonder if Lewis Hamilton actually wants to go to Ferrari and he's just trying to make it sound less obvious. I mean, it's getting to that point in the year, we're getting to that point of silly season already, where we're about to hear some rumors going around. I don't know, and Lewis Hamilton's contract's up at the end of the year. Could he go to Ferrari? Will he stay with Mercedes? Will he retire? Tune in to this channel to find out. But yeah, with all that out of the way, we now turn our attention to the streets of Monaco. God help us with this race. Get us a fucking better car for this race, for fuck's sakes. But now, to Monaco, a race where you really can't pass anybody, and to be perfectly honest, usually the race is decided basically off qualifying. And in qualifying, both Silver Arrows struggled and ended up in the middle of the fields. And yeah, they pretty much stayed there the entire race. As the pole sitter for this race was Max Verstappen. And well, yeah, Verstappen got the lead off the start ahead of Alonso. And yeah, Verstappen just ran away with the race. I mean, there was some good there was a few passes for position at Monaco, if you could believe it or not, in the middle of the field. But when it looked like we were going to have at least one Ferrari car on the podium, nope, Ferrari had to piss that away, because what the fuck is a pit strategy? Of course, there was some interesting drama that happened throughout this race. Well, with Sergio Perez having to start the back, and he effectively stayed there, because at Monaco, You can't really pass anybody, except for the rare oftentimes where you could. But there was going to be some interest with about 29 to go, when rain would come in and strike the track. Where when a lot of teams would switch over to the intermediates, Aston Martin would choose the rain to do their best Ferrari impersonation by sending Alonso back out on fresh slicks on a raining racetrack when it's going to get wetter. What the fuck was Aston Martin thinking? That was a terrible strategy call. And that terrible strategy call would be justified because a few moments later, Verstappen would come on the radio saying that the track was too wet and that they need inters immediately. And then a few moments later, Alonso would join Verstappen back in the pits. But honestly, throwing Alonso on slicks was a terrible call because if they went on inters like they should have, Alonso probably could have caught Verstappen and maybe could have passed him for the win. Because with the rain in Monaco, you actually could pass people at Monaco in the rain, which is very shocking. Holy shit, all this shitty race needed was a little rain to make it interesting. Fucking pathetic. But to be perfectly honest with this track, I don't think it's the car. I don't think it's the track that's the problem. I think it's the car. This car is just way too big. Like, this car does not fit Monaco in any way whatsoever. This just does not fit it. This does not fit this track whatsoever. But after that bot strategy call, though, Max Verstappen, it would just open the door for Verstappen to jump out to nearly a 30-second lead. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, Aston Martin really dropped the ball. They probably could have won this race and gave Red Bull their first loss of the season. But they fucking blew it. They had it in the bag, and Aston Martin fucking blew it with Alonso. And yeah, Verstappen, he would go on and easily cruise to a second Monaco win in 3 years, as he would claim the 2023 Monaco Grand Prix. Alonso would come home second, and joining Alonso on the podium would be his former teammate at Alpine, Esteban Ocon. But of course, the Verstappen fans took advantage of Aston Martin's stupidity, and Verstappen gets another win in Monte Carlo, as the Orange Army hits the jackpot again.
Yo, hey, yo, ho, super much, super much, yo, hey, yo, ho, super much, super much, yo, hey, yo, ho, super much, yo, hey, yo, ho, super much,
But yeah, Verstappen gets his 39th career win. And with Verstappen's 39th career win, he now moves to pass Sebastian Vettel for most wins by a driver at Red Bull in Red Bull's team history. As the top 3 winningest drivers at Red Bull go as such: Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel, and Mark Webber at the very bottom. So yeah, really a majority of Red Bull's wins have just been Verstappen and Vettel alone. Wow, Red Bull only became a good team because they got carried by not one, but 2 generational talents. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Mercedes and Ferrari are really losing to this team? God damn it. But yeah, Alonso ends up second, which keeps him third in the championship above Lewis Hamilton. But Hamilton and Russell would end up with solid top 10 finishes, which means that now the Silver Arrows sit third in the Constructors' Championship, now 1 point behind Aston Martin for second. But they do gain a little ground on Aston Martin today because Lance Stroll is Lance Stroll. But Verstappen, with his win and Sergio Perez's struggles, Verstappen now extends to nearly over a race and a half lead in the championship. Yep, well, I hope you enjoyed Sergio Perez trying to make the championship interesting, because now Verstappen is starting to run away with the championship again. But yeah, well, this season was fun while it lasted, but yeah, Verstappen continues to dominate again, and Red Bull remains undefeated, as now Red Bull is 6 for 6 this season in F1. What will happen next in F1? Tune in to find out. Man, how the fuck is this sport considered the better open wheel series over IndyCar? IndyCar is way fucking better than F1. Let's not bullshit this.